Hello and welcome to this exploring session. I'm your host, Robert Crichton, and we are possibly facing a world of gremlins in the world of computernesses, as I'm hearing all sorts of strange sound artifacts occurring. But that is the nature of trying to do these things on the world of the internet, as we try to get people to be connected all around the world in different locations all over. We're finishing today with the conclusion of Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, message incoming from the big giant head, and then we're going to transfer into John of Bordeaux, the sequel to Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. Friar Bacon, Friar Bungay by Robert Greene, John of Bordeaux, who knows? Frankly, maybe we'll come to an opinion at the end. So we have a team of readers here that I'm going to go straight into before my internet crashes. So reading today, Miles and Perce is...
Hello, I'm Dan. I'm an actor based in Montpellier, France.
And reading A Devil and Vandermast today is...
I'm Aliki Chapple. I'm an actor and theatrical translator based in the UK.
And reading the part of the Emperor across the two plays today is...
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Amesu, and I'm an author based in Romford.
And reading Elinor and Selimus today is...
Hi, I'm Ruth Evans. I'm a specialist in late medieval literature, and I'm living in St. Louis in the Midwest of the US.
And reading Friar Bacon today will be...
Hi, I'm Jitka, and I'm a junior research fellow in English Renaissance literature at Trinity College, Cambridge.
And reading Margaret, John, and Rossacler today is...
I am Valentina, and I am an Italian actor and voiceover artist in London.
And reading Keeper, Ferdinand, and Old Woman today is...
Hello, I'm Sarah Blake. I'm an actor, writer, and director in Germany.
And reading today The Prince and First Basshaw will be...
Liza Graham, actor, singer, and Renaissance text coach to actors in London.
And reading King Henry and Second Basshaw today will be...
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm an actor based in London.
Reading A Friend, First Lord and First Scholar today will be...
Hello, I'm Helen Good, and I'm a historian.
Reading Warren, Second Lord and Second Scholar today will be...
Hi, I'm Tamara. I am an actor, usually based in London, currently in exile in Germany.
Reading Ermsby and Ameroth today will be...
Hi, I'm Alan Scott, based in Suffolk. Never been an actor.
And hopefully, if the internet is still with us, reading Lacy and Rossalin is... Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Hello, I'm Pamela Flanagan, and I'm an actor based in London.
Excellent. And that is the team today. So we're into Act 5. I'm not going to explain the plot so far because, frankly, it's probably not going to help you. But there's a love match going on with Margaret and Lacy. Will they, won't they? Oh, I don't know. Into Act 5, Scene 1, as we have it in our script. Enter Margaret in nun's apparel, the keeper and their friend.
Margaret, be not so headstrong in these vows. Oh, bury not such beauty in a cell, that England hath held famous for the hue. Thy father's hair, like to the silver blooms that beautify the shrubs of Africa, shall fall before the dated time of death, thus to forego his lovely Margaret.
Oh, Father, when the harmony of heaven soundeth the measures of a lively faith, the vain illusions of this flattering world seem odious to the thoughts of Margaret. I loved once, Lord Lacy was my love, and now I hate myself for that I loved, and doted more on him than on my God. For this I scourge myself with sharp repents. But now the touch of such aspiring sins tell me all love is lust, but love of heavens. That beauty used for love is vanity. The world contains naught but alluring baits, pride, flattery, and inconstant thoughts. To shun the pricks of death, I leave the world, and vow to meditate on heavenly bliss, to live in Framlingham, a holy nun, holy and pure in conscience and in deed, and for to wish all maids to learn of me to seek heaven's joy before earth's vanity.
And will you then, Margaret, be shorn a nun, and so leave us all?
Now farewell, world, the engine of all woe. Farewell to friends and father, welcome Christ. Adieu to dainty robes. This base attire better befits an humble mind to God than all the show of rich habiliments. Farewell, O love, and with fond love farewell, sweet Lacy, whom I loved once so dear. Ever be well, but never in my thoughts, lest I offend to think on Lacy's love. But even to that, as to the rest, farewell.
Enter Lacy, Warren and Ermsby, booted and spurred.
Come on, my wags. We're near the keeper's lodge. Here have I oft walked in the watery meads and chatted with my lovely Margaret.
Muted. Sorry. Sirrah Ned, is not this the keeper?
'Tis the same.
The old lecher has got holy mutton to him. A nun, my lord.
Keeper, how farest thou? Hollow man, what cheer? How doth Peggy, thy daughter and my love?
Ah, my good lord. Oh, woe is me for Peggy. See where she stands, clad in her nun's attire, ready to be shorn in Framingham. She leaves the world because she left your love. Oh, my good lord, persuade her, if you can.
Why? How now, Margaret? What? A malcontent? A nun? What holy father taught you this, to task yourself to such a tedious life as die a maid? 'Twere injury to me to smother up such beauty in a cell.
Lord Lacy, thinking on my former miss, how fond the prime of wanton years were spent in love, oh, fie upon that fond conceit whose hap and essence hangeth in the eye. I leave both love and love's content at once, bethinking me to him that is true love, and leaving all the world for love of him.
Whence, Peggy, comes this metamorphosis? What, shorn a nun? And I have from the court posted with coursers to convey thee hence to Windsor, where our marriage shall be kept. Thy wedding robes are in the tailor's hands. Come, Peggy, leave these peremptory vows.
Did not my lord resign his interest and make divorce twixt Margaret and him?
'Twas but to try sweet Peggy's constancy. But will fair Margaret leave her love and lord?
Is not heaven's joy before earth's fading bliss, and life above sweeter than life in love?
Why then, Margaret will be shorn a nun.
Margaret hath made a vow which may not be revoked.
We cannot stay, my lord, and if she be so strict, our leisure grants us not to woo afresh.
Choose you, fair damsel, yet the choice is yours. Either a solemn nunnery or the court. God or Lord Lacy, which contents you best? To be a nun, or else Lord Lacy's wife?
A good motion. Peggy, your answer must be short.
The flesh is frail, my lord doth know it well, that when he comes with his enchanting face, with hair betide, I cannot say him nay. Off goes the habit of a maiden's heart, and seeing fortune will, fair Framingham, and all the show of holy nuns, farewell, Lacy for me, if he will be my lord.
Peggy, thy lord, thy love, thy husband, trust me, by truth of knighthood, that the king stays for to marry matchless Elinor, until I bring thee richly to the court, that one day may both marry her and thee. How sayest thou, keeper? Art thou glad of this?
As if the English king had given the park and dear of Fressingfield to me.
I pray thee, my lord of Sussex, why art thou in a brown study?
To see the nature of women, that be they never so near God, yet they love to die in a man's arms.
What have you fit for breakfast? We have hired and posted all this night to Fressingfield.
Butter and cheese and ambles of a deer, such as poor keepers have within their lodge.
And not a bottle of wine.
We'll find one for my lord.
Come, Sussex, let us in. We shall have more, for she speaks least to hold her promise sure.
So it was all a test. That's why it happened, which sort of makes him a bit of a git. But, you know, it's all fine. I do wonder at that moment when he does a good motion, Peggy, your answer must be short, whether there's sort of a dramatic kiss moment or something like that. Feels like there needs to be something to change her mind that seems ridiculously over the top. Because it's otherwise, it doesn't feel like he's persuaded her during that scene by any kind of dialogue.
The real problem that the director has with this scene is that at which point she hits him.
Yeah.
Because at some point she takes a swing at him and probably knocks him over because he won't be expecting it.
I think it probably lives between the two lines, "'Twas but to try sweet Peggy's constancy, slap." But will fair Margaret leave her love and lord?
Possibly, but at some point it has to happen. Otherwise, the audience is going to be upset.
There isn't quite enough of a back and forth in this scene to sort of play out what we've had earlier in the play. I mean, it's nice that we get a scene with Margaret and, you know, there's dialogue and there's a decision to become a nun and Dad's not very happy and the random friend who, frankly, is going to get their dialogue reassigned to the keeper. Why? But you know, it's nice to see we've got some follow through with Margaret. You know, any other thoughts before we move on?
It feels like.
Oh yeah, Jitka. Yeah.
Sorry. It feels like it's the third time, at least in this play, when we had that "what's going on" moment. How come? One with the letter, which just came out of the blue. The second possibly with the very swift murders at the end of yesterday, again without any preparation. And this moment felt a bit like that, just a bit too abrupt. And you would, as you say, you would need to have a lot of performance around to make it convincing.
Get the impression that yes, the end of the play is approaching. Let's tie it up as quickly as possible. Liza.
The trial of constancy is a trope we see often in plays of this period. Playwrights love it because it introduces drama into what would otherwise be an undisturbed relationship. What astonishes me is that Lacy feels no need to apologize. I think theatrically, for it to work slightly better, you would need to see a scene where the prince or someone casts doubt on Margaret's constancy and forces Lacy or instigates Lacy to write the letter.
Well, to be fair, we need a scene where Lacy writes the letter, which we do not have. As Helen pointed out last time, the audience is not let into what the hell is going on. And that is a bit of a problem because we are just sitting there going, huh? Twice, actually, because of that. Any other thoughts before we move on? 2 more scenes to go. Sarah?
Yeah, sorry, because I wasn't here the last couple of days. Is that because is this the whole play? There's nothing missing from it. It's just he didn't choose to write those scenes.
We don't seem to have any evidence that there's anything explicitly missing here. I don't think so. It seems to be this is the text. Okay, let's move on into the next scene where we can pick up maybe some things at the very end of this. So, Act 5, Scene 2, we're tying up a few more loose ends because this is obviously a loose end we've all been waiting to have tied up. Enter a devil.
How restless are the ghosts of hellish spirits, when every charmer with his magic spells calls us from ninefold trenched Phlegethon to scud and overscour the earth in post upon the speedy wings of swiftest winds. Now Bacon hath raised me from the darkest deep to search about the world for miles his man, for miles, and to torment his lazy bones for careless watching of his brazen head. See where he comes. He's fine.
And enter Miles in a gown and a corner cap.
Scholar, quoth you, marry, sir, I would have been made a bottle maker when I was made a scholar. For I can get neither be a deacon, reader, nor schoolmaster, no, not the clerk of a parish. Some call me dunce, another saith my head is full of Latin as an egg's full of oatmeal. Thus I am tormented that the devil and Friar Bacon haunts me. Good Lord, here's one of my master's devils. Yeah, I'll go speak to him. What? Master Plutus, how cheer you?
Dost thou know me?
Know you, sir. Why, are not you one of my master's devils that will want to come to my master, Dr. Bacon, at Brazennose?
Yes, marry, I am.
Yeah. Good Lord, Master Plutus, I have seen you 1,000 times at my master's, and yet I had never the manners to make you drink. But, sir, I am glad to see how conformable you are to the statute. I warrant you, he's as yeomanly a man as you shall see. Mark you, masters. He's a plain, honest man without will to God. I pray you, sir, do you come lately from hell?
I, marry. How then?
Faith, 'tis a place I have desired long to see. Have you not good tippling houses there? May not a man have a lusty fire there, a pot of good ale, a pair of cards, a swinging piece of chalk, and a brown toast that would clap a white waistcoat on a cup of good drink?
All this you may have there?
Now for me, friend, I'm for you. I pray you, may I not have an office there?
Yes, 1,000. Oh, what would that be?
By my troth, sir, in a place where I may profit myself. I know hell is a hot place, and men are marvelously dry, and much drink is spent there. I will be a tapster.
Thou shalt.
There's nothing lets me from going with you, but that 'tis a long journey, and I have never a horse.
Thou shalt ride on my back.
Now, surely here's a courteous devil, that for to pleasure his friend would not stick to make a jade of himself. But I pray you, goodman friend, let me move a question to you.
What's that?
I pray you, whether is your pace a trot or an amble?
An amble.
'Tis well, but take heed it be not a trot. But 'tis no matter, I'll prevent it.
And he puts on spurs.
What dost?
Marry, friend, I put on my spurs, for if I find your pace either a trot or else uneasy, I'll put you to a false gallop. I'll make you feel the benefit of my spurs.
Get up on my back.
And Miles mounts on the devil's back.
Oh Lord, here's even a goodly marvel when a man rides to hell on the devil's back.
And exit with devil roaring.
Ah!
I wonder about this scene. I mean, you know, we're all waiting for this scene to happen, obviously, because it's been signposted so far in advance. Why Bacon is doing this, I don't know. You know, sure, he probably is a bit miffed, but it seems a little extreme. I wonder if the joke of the scene is that the devil's there to scare Miles and, you know, torment him, and Miles is just going, "Oh, look, there's one of those devils. Hi."
Yeah. I think that's probably it.
And that he talks himself into being taken to hell.
Yeah. And he's really cool about it.
Mm.
Like, you know, the African-American ballad Stagger Lee, in one of the versions of which, when Stagger Lee goes to hell, he says to the devil, "Get up on your shelf. My name is Stagger Lee. I'm going to run this place myself." And that's kind of...
I do love that the devil doesn't have to tempt Miles, doesn't have to entrap him, doesn't have to do any of the usual things that we see devils do. There isn't even an oath of loyalty. Like, Miles is just like, "You come from hell. I'd quite like to go to hell." The devil is like, "Okay then."
Yes, it's on my way. Yeah, I can take you to hell. And, you know, the fact he wants to be a tapster, you know, we've got tapsters in hell before we've got in Chester. mystery cycle, there is a tapster in hell who has a lengthy chat with some demons, and again, yeah, that sort of sense that there is the potential of two-way traffic between hell and professions, and that kind of thing. Any other thoughts about this frankly completely random scene that's obviously there just for the sake of a laugh?
I love that he asks if you're going to have a lusty fire in hell.
Yeah. none of your poor fire. No, I want a good fire in hell. Helen.
Yes, his ambition's quite moderate. I mean, he doesn't want to be mine host or anything. A tapster in a tippling house will do him.
Well, he's checked the market. You know, there's going to be a lot of dry throats. He's a clever man.
Yeah. He could be a little more ambitious, I think. But the thing that I don't understand is Miles's, is it his third speech? He says that the devil is conformable to the statute. And I haven't the slightest idea what that statute is.
I think it's something about sumptuary laws, because here's a plain, honest man without welt or guard. Welts and guards were both names for various ornamentations.
Oh yeah, a guard is a facing, isn't it?
Yeah, a guard is a facing. Fools wore a motley coat guarded with yellow. And welts are basically like ornaments you put on the seams.
I think you're right.
I think it's a sumptuary law.
Yeah, so it's what the devil is wearing in terms of his livery. Is that what we're talking about there?
He's yeomanly. He's not dressing above his station.
Okay, it's it's a good fun scene. It sort of closes off Niles's narrative in a sort of open-ended kind of way, I suppose. Doesn't feature any other recurring characters, so we go to final scene of the play. So let's hope all the final plot strands that are left dangling will be tied up here. Act 5, Scene 3. Enter the Emperor with a pointless sword. Next, the King of Castile carrying a sword with a point. Lacy carrying the globe, Warren carrying a rod of gold with a dove on it, Ermsby with a crown and sceptre, Princess Elinor with Margaret, Countess of Lincoln on her left hand, Prince Edward, King Henry, Friar Bacon and lords attending.
Great potentates, earth miracles for state, think that Prince Edward humbles at your feet, and for these favours on his martial sword, he vows perpetual homage to yourselves, yielding these honours unto Elinor.
Gramercy's lordings, old Plantagenet that rules and sways the Albion diadem, with tears discovers these conceived joys, and vows requital if his men-at-arms, the wealth of England, or due honours done, to Elinor may quite his favourites. But all this while, what say you to the dames, that shine like to the crystal lamps of heaven?
To serve, but added to these two, they do surpass those gorgeous images, the gloried Ida, with rich beauty wealth.
'Tis I, my lords, who humbly on my knee must yield her orisons to mighty Jove for lifting up his handmaid to this state, brought from her homely cottage to the court, and graced with kings, princes, and emperors, to whom, next to the noble Lincoln Earl, I vow obedience, and such humble love as may a handmaid to such mighty men.
Our martial man that wears the Almain crown, and you, the western potentates of might, the Albion princess, English Edward's wife, proud that the lovely star of Fressingfield, fair Margaret, countess to the Lincoln Earl, attends on Eleanor. Gramercy's lord for her. 'Tis I give thanks for Margaret to you all, and rest for her due bounden to yourselves.
Seeing the marriage is solemnized, let's march in triumph to the royal feast. But why stands Friar Bacon here so mute?
Repentant for the follies of my youth that magic's secret mysteries misled, and joyful that this royal marriage portends such bliss unto this matchless realm.
Why, Bacon, what strange event shall happen to this land? Or what shall grow from Edward and his queen?
I find by deep prescience of mine art, which once I tempered in my secret cell, that here Where Brute did build his Troinovant, from forth the royal garden of a king shall flourish out so rich and fair a bud, whose brightness shall deface proud Phoebus' flower, and overshadow Albion with her leaves. Till then Mars shall be the master of the field, but then the stormy threats of wars shall cease. The horse shall stand as careless of the pike, drums shall be turned to timbrels of delight. With wealthy favours plenty shall enrich the strand that gladded wandering Brood to see. And peace from heaven shall harbour in these leaves, that, gorgeous, beautify this matchless flower. Apollo's heliotropion then shall stoop, and Venus's hyacinth shall veil her top. Juno shall shut her gilliflowers up, and Pallas's bay shall bash her brightest green. Ceres's carnation, in consort with those, shall stoop and wonder at Diana's rose.
This prophecy is mystical. But, glorious commanders of Europa's love, that make fair England, like that wealthy isle, circled with Jihan and swift Euphrates, in royalizing Henry's Albion, with presence of your princely mightiness. Let's march. The tables all are spread, and viands, such as England's wealth affords, are ready set to furnish out the boards. You shall have welcome, mighty potentates. It rests to furnish up this royal feast, only your hearts be frolic. For the time craves that we taste of naught but jouissance. Thus glories England over all the West.
And they all exit to have a jolly good knees up. Bacon's last prophecy there, I've read better horoscopes in the back page of a magazine in the dentist waiting room. I mean, you know, I know the history that's coming up and you know, it's all really, I don't believe for a second that Bacon has a clue what's coming up. He's just making it up, isn't he? It does vaguely connect, but it's all so beautifully tenuous. So yeah, everybody lives happily ever after.
So random.
Unless you live under the reign of Edward I, the prince here, in which case, actually, no, probably some really, really crap things are going to happen to you because he's a bastard. Final thoughts, really, about this particular play and how it's rounded up, and this final scene, opening with all this pomp and procession and very much saying, this is the end, and you know, you expect to knees up now. So, any final thoughts from the room about this play before we move on to its sequel?
It's wrongly titled.
Mm-hmm.
It really ought to be The Fair Maid of Framlingham.
Fressingfield.
Fressingfield, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Featuring the amusing additions of Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. I mean, Friar Bungay, why is he in the title? He doesn't deserve it at all. Ruth.
Speaking as a medievalist, I have to say that I think this play is incredibly unfair to the Middle Ages. And I think that Friar Bacon is just, he's a complete idiot. And from everything, from, you know, falling asleep so that his head, his brazen head gets bashed in, and he's just a magician. Whereas Bacon was really, you know, a 13th century kind of polymath and a towering figure. And in this play, he's really reduced to a kind of idiot.
Bad-tempered idiot. I mean, it's the way he says, you know, I am repentant of the follies of my youth. I have cast away my magic. Apart from that devil, I just sum it up. But apart from that, I've stopped.
That's a real stereotype. That's very much a stereotype of the Middle Ages.
See, the early even the early modernists couldn't help but having a go at the medieval. As we all know, in 1485, everybody became Tudors then, and the Middle Ages were put to bed.
Yes, that's how it happened.
Yeah. Other thoughts?
Margaret's a fantastic part, though. I think Margaret's is the most interesting character in the play. I think she's great. She's astonishing. She actually feels quite modern.
Yeah. Who else wants to leap in? Liza, if you've leant forward with intent, go on.
I have. I agree about Margaret, that she, and even the few speeches that Elinor gets, women in this play are deciders. They, you know, when we first see the prince falling in love with the humble country maiden, we think, oh, well, that's it, you know, this play is going to be about the love affair between the prince and the country maiden. No, the country girl has other ideas. And she's not going to pick the highest social status guy. Yes, I mean, which is a better special effect, magic or erotic cheese making? Who knows?
I have to say, if it was being made as a film, that sequence is just so, that could be so wrong.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed that scene, the erotic cheese making.
It's a
well,
really
it was
good
really
speech.
only referred to by another character, but it was referred to in very stirring terms. Like, I'm probably never going to look at cheese the same way again.
It's a bit like
stirring terms.
It's a bit Potter's Wheel ghost sort of playing. You know, there's all sorts of potential there. It's
Creamy
very
flesh, creamy milk. You get the idea.
Yeah.
Just very creamy in general.
Yeah.
I still love this play, is my final thought. I can see the difficulties it presents. It would be less easy to put on than some of the other plays we've looked at. But on the other hand, those challenges might be rewarding. And I actually do kind of like Bacon's final prophecy. I would love an effect where all the bits of coronation regalia everyone is carrying suddenly turn into flowers as Bacon mentions them. And then the last thing you get is the Tudor rose.
And yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we've had this with Greene a lot. Is that, you know, there isn't necessarily perfect consistency with everything that's happening, but it does still keep the energy and the excitement and the drama moving forward. Even if I think the problem with this play is you've got to stop the audience from thinking about the plot. You've got to keep it moving fast enough for no one to go, hang on, that doesn't make any... You can't have an interval, I think, in that logic. You know, you can't give them the break. Just keep going. Just keep going. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next play? It's interesting, though we've wound up a lot of threads today, in a sense it hasn't added that much to the overall shape of what we've spoken about over the last 2 days with this text, actually. You know, it's...
Well, there was a major plot twist.
Was there?
Yes. Lacy turned up.
Yeah, I was expecting that to happen.
Well, you may have been, but I wasn't.
We said he was going.
He did say it in the last scene.
It's whether he got the girl. That was the question.
I was rather assuming that the letter was a forgery by someone else. I don't know.
Okay, Dan.
Just something that I wanted to amend something that I had said yesterday or 2 days ago about this play's reception, because I wonder if these were actually problems for the early modern audience, this play. As I said yesterday, as you all saw, that this was printed again in 1630, but this was preceded by a chapbook that was printed twice, and that chapbook was printed, an adaptation of the play, was printed several times over, but the play was only printed one more time. And I wondered if the chapbook does differ greatly from how the play is. So why was the chapbook so much more popular than the play was in print? I wonder if maybe people didn't like, I mean, I don't know, but it's curious to me. And I wonder if the printing of the play was more to capitalize on the fact that Friar Bacon was popular, but maybe not necessarily this play. So maybe some of these issues that people are having are, yeah, people thought the same thing back then as well.
I mean, that's a very good segue, because we are about to go into its sequel, which is John of Bordeaux. Text has been prepared for us by Helen from, let's put it this way, when I started trying to produce a script, I just went, ah, and then said, passed it on to Helen. So she's done a fabulous job in presenting a script that is readable. That does not mean it is complete. the play does not end per se. It sort of peters out into a sort of Dadaist spectacle of occasional random words, sadly, due to the state of the manuscript. So we're going to be able to perform now over today and tomorrow, John of Bordeaux. It's possible the bits of it are by Robert Greene. It could be by I've got various names associated with it. I think it's fair to say we don't know. It's produced around about the time that Robert Greene is having unfortunate minor dying problems. So there are some issues with who wrote it and for why. But we're not going to worry about that now. We're just going to enjoy the play. That's the plan. We're going to rattle through a few scenes to get a sense of the flow of it all. It features a lot of similar characters or similarly named characters. We're going to see how much consistency there is in character in terms of how they're presented, and characters who form similar functions but maybe different people or maybe the same people. We shall see. So without further ado, if everybody is ready to go into John of Bordeaux, anyone not ready, wave a hand. Nope, marvellous. Let's begin. John of Bordeaux. Enter Emperor John of Bordeaux, his wife Rossalin, his son Rossacler, Vandermast, Friar Bacon, with attendants.
Sir John of Bordeaux, haughty in thy thoughts, martial and full of warlike excellence, well hast thou kept ravine against the Turk, though Ameroth beleaguered it with men, for which I praise thee much and prize thee dear. I tell thee, John, thou art loved of Frederick, for proof thy son shall wait upon thy cup. Thy daughter and fair Rossalin, thy wife, shall with the Empress feast it in the court, and thou thyself, even John of Bordeaux, shall rescue Ravenna, and be lord thereof. And so thou wants a fresh supply of men, thou shalt have 30,000 strong, to aid thee against the assaults of Ameroth.
Worthy supporter of the German state, one of Bordeaux was mine ancestor, and at his honours do I aim my thoughts. I prize my prince above my private self, and country's credit more than the loss of blood. Mongst all the favours from your excellence, my son's preferment I account as chief. For fathers glory in their sons adore, and that the empress deigns my wife's consort. Sir John is a soldier to her mightiness, vowed in her quarrel for her to break his lance, and for Ravenna's jest, Bordeaux will be a faithful subject unto Frederick.
I know it, John. Bacon, why art not blithe? Wert thou at Oxford in thy house of Brasenose? More hearty welcome can not Bacon have than Frederick in heart affords to him. 'Tis thy disgrace. I tell thee, Vandermast, if Bacon's welcome fits not his content, sorrows should link in sympathy of love. What Germany affords in honour or in wealth is thine to grace Friar Bacon with, and Hosborg and their schools may hold them proud that English Bacon lives within their cell.
Bacon is welcome unto Vandermast, and Hosborg holds the man in great account, though I have little case to wish him well. For well I wot, when I in England was, your grace can tell, he set me on a jade that posted me in haste from Albion, as a vengeance and a whirlwind brought me home.
I know it well, that envy hath her spleen, and envy lives amongst the greatest gods. For all this check, be merry, man. Thou art welcome to the German emperor, that glories in the presence of thyself.
I thank your grace. Bacon left not his English schools to gain abroad wealth or promotion. Desire of deeper skill made me coast unto the German clime. Bacon is old, and age cannot be blithe, for many years must meditate on sin. Yet I confess your highness's courtesy to far more than my deserts can claim. But as for Hoxborg and for Vandermast, as they account of Bacon, so do I of them.
When I was young and sought the English throne, to show I was a soldier in that coast, as youth desire to show their chivalry, coming to Oxford there to see their school's Bacon, that wished to do all strangers good, gave me great welcome, with a bound of cheer. To gratulate the man and honour him, let him, my lord, be guest at Bordeaux's house. My mansion shall be harbour for the friar, and I will cause fair Rossalin, my wife, to love the man she doth like of me.
He shall not want a welcome then, my lord.
Sir John, I take it kindly at your hand. I would your English welcome had been more, but friar's diet must not revel it. 2 dishes makes a scholar's cheer exceed. But for I have long desired to see the Turk, to witness with mine eyes what I have read, out to Ravenna marching with your troops, and see a while the accidents of war, and then I return again to Frederick.
Bacon, content, thou shalt have soldiers fair, but welcome as it were unto a king.
Thanks, Bordeaux. Thou honourest me in this, in that thou likest of bacon. Meanwhile, until our soldiers' troops from hence, let's in, and blithely teach the English friar how Rhenish wine can make a merry heart.
And they exit. Moving into the next scene, there's a flourish. Enter Ferdinand and his 2 friends.
What cheer, my lord? What, overclad in dumps? The prince that swelleth in his own content, and hath the empire tied unto his will, and sitters one that sorrowed for want. Come, Ferdinand, let us to the court, and in a stoup of wine bury those cares that make thy honours sad. A tipsy head is full of pleasant toys, and there's no better salve for discontent than take a poison brewed from the press.
What, fire on fire? 'Tis contrary to kind. Eating grapes likes not a thirsty mind. Oh, well said Ovid in his wanton writ, Venus in Vinis, ignis in igne fuit.
My lord, let's frolic it mongst the dames. A woman's face is enemy to care, and beauty slacketh every solemn dump.
But if that beauty once hath bred thy bane, what medicine then by physic may be ta'en?
Why, woe, my lord, and wine, my lord, by wealth. Princes have coin, and that's the surest clause. Had Phoebus followed Jupiter in love, and crossed fair Daphne with a golden shower, Daphne as Danae had been made a mother.
Daphne? Were she but as coy as she, time would make hope believe it once might be. But Phoebus' love was never half so loath to grace the sun god with a wanton eye, as is this saint that maketh me so sad.
Why, what is that, my lord?
As friend in life, so be my friends in love. It is fair Rossaline, the fair, too fair. Because her fairness is so chaste, I court, she coy. I tell my griefful plaints, but all my love is buried up in loss. Counsel how to obtain a dame so fair.
Why, faint not, Ferdinand, though foiled at first. Women's disdains are ended in desires. The harder goot, the sweeter in the taste. Try art, my lord. Go on to Vandermast.
Then Vandermast, and none but Vandermast, may ease the sorrows of my grieved soul. To him I'll go, and if he may recure, or ease by art what love hath wrought in me, I'll make him equal with myself in gree. But if that herbs or spells may cure the mind, I marvel why impatient Phoebus cried, Hey me, he quoth, nullis amor est medicabilis herbis. Yet I will try the art of Vandermast.
And they exit, and there we will pause, having got enough into that to get a sense of the lie of the land. And it's something familiar about a lot of this, even if we've changed locations. A lot of the themes are the same. I love the fact that Vandermast has a callback going, last time we met, not cool, man, not cool. Because in the previous play he got whisked away with Bacon's art. But also we get this repetition of the love for somebody unattainable thing. It's not the English king's son this time; it's the emperor's son who's playing this game. So it's similar but different. But that's because it's a sequel. That's what they did.
And Rossalin is married, unlike Peggy, right?
Yeah,
it makes things very different.
Yeah.
And chaste.
Yes.
Right.
So yeah, general first thoughts. Don't have to go into too much detail, but how are we finding it so far?
I think it starts from chapter start in the middle of the action, so I like that. And as soon as we start running with it.
Yes, there's a sense there's action going on elsewhere. They're preparing for, there's mention of war and stuff and
soldiers.
Yeah, which we didn't have in the previous.
Yes.
There's an outside world as well, which is nice.
There's something, I don't have the technical vocabulary, but there's something stately and measured in the verse that seems more controlled than in the previous play. I don't know how to put that, how many syllables that is or anything, but it feels smoother.
Well, we might be able to discuss that towards the end. There are questions about that which we can ask. Any other thoughts at this stage?
Interesting that it's framed by these old men, and Bacon is old, the Emperor is old. Who's the other figure who's old? John of Bordeaux is old, and
yeah.
I'm just wondering, why does it choose to frame it in that way? And then the reference to the Turks suggests that there's going to be some kind of Orientalist theme or something.
Yes, we seem to be back in a familiar world of Turkish plays.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted to do the play Selimus before this one, because we're going to encounter a character with the same name later on, though of a different tenor, I think. And we'll see what general themes might be coming from similar but very different plays, if that's the right way of putting it. I haven't put in a trigger warning whether there's any unfortunate references or dialogue. There might be. I don't know. I cannot remember off the top of my head.
There always are.
Yeah.
Wherever you get a play with Turks in, it's unfortunate.
So yes, be prepared for that possibility. Any additional thoughts before we move forward? Jitka, do I see a hand?
This certainly feels a bit more ominous right from the beginning. This was the point when in the first play we had that erotic way of making cheese. Can't get rid of that memory, but yeah, and here suddenly the lover here, the big pursuer, is saying, oh, but she's just so chaste. That's really that's just bad. Yeah, the fair too fair. So it is setting a slightly darker tone of foreign politics, the court, possibly foreign and courtly machinations, and also darker sides of pursuing women.
I mean, his courtiers are enablers.
Yeah, they're not questioning anything, are they?
No sense of morality.
Jauntiness, that kind of ended at the end, that's kind of petered out at the end of Bacon, has not carried on over in this play.
We don't have that sort of pastoral sense of it as, all the jolly yokel people coming on at all. Okay, well, we're still in the early stages, so let's not go to too much more deeper now. Let's go into the next scene. So enter Ameroth of the Turk with Basshaw.
It grieves me, Basshaws and bold Janissaries, that Ameroth, whose worth hath won the world, should be rejected at Ravenna back, a little town begirt with slender walls, yet scorning all the assaults of Ameroth.
My lord, 'tis not the countermures that counterchecks the value of your highness' chivalry, but John of Bordeaux, that brave martial lord. He is the key that keeps the city walls, and in his valour doth their safety rest.
Like Thetis' darling trotting on his steed, chasing the men of Ilion from their tents, so John of Bordeaux fares him in the field. And I, so brave a Basshaw in my camp, all Europe's conquest should not bow the man.
And there is a noise.
What noise is this? Stand on your guards, my friends.
Bring away those Christians, this lordly churl that stands upon his state as if he might compare with any king.
Enter Bacon and Perce, his man, led in by Turks.
Basshaw, what news?
Sallying about these neighbour bordering groves, we found these Christians seated in a thicket, thus poring on a book wherein was drawn forms and characters that seem most strange. This other, whom we hold to be his man, sat just direct with him with an instrument by all conjectures seeming magical, as if he meant by art to draw the city. We, seeing them, laid hold upon the men, they scorning what we either did or dare, as men that little weighed our force, or veiling little of the threats of death.
Hark you, sir. Pray, what might he seem to be? You have talked on to all this while.
Marry, sir, it is Ameroth, Emperor of the Turks.
Alas, good gentlemen, I am heartily sorry for him, I promise.
Why so?
He seems to be troubled with the headache, as such a vengeable many of clouts about the Phaeton.
Fellow, what art thou?
A Christian born, my calling is a friar.
Strange are thy looks and uncouth thy nature. Ne'er have I seen such garments in camp. Yet many Christian prisoners have we ta'en. What canst thou do, or what is thy degree?
I can march through the thickest of thy troops, and don thy janissaries with a frown, making thy bashaws bow when I command. My angry looks can make proud Ameroth shroud him within the compass of his God. And at my list great Constantinople shall vanish, as did Ilion, into flames. Turk, I can bridle all thy power by art. Thus, for my skill, and now for my degree, I am English Bacon. What sayest thou to me?
Oft have I seen the portraiture of pride, shadows within a Christian's haughty looks. For most of them are men of high conceit, but such a proud resolving groom as this, pricked up with such disdaining insolence, ne'er came before the face of Ameroth. An Englishman, well mayst thou be a devil, such stern import hangs in thy frowning brow. Now thou hast made with one will be thy match, and chasten all thy follies with a frown. Step Calibasha, and with thy sword reach me, that proved presuming Christian's head. Then let him make compare with Ameroth. What's the matter?
His dudgeon haft as angry, and his sword begins to clatter.
Tell me, villain, wherefore camest thou?
I, for to gratulate my princely friend, came wandering, Ameroth, unto thy camp, to have thy crown, thy robe, and symmetry, which I will have maugre thy proudest guard, ere thou and I depart ourselves from hence. Grudge not, but yield them me without delay, for English Bacon will not have an hay.
Blasphemous Christian! What? My royal crown, framed at the cost of warlike Ottoman, that first was supreme of the mighty Turks, my curious robe and my scimitar, may I exchange them for the Western world, and have the land that limits from the Alps unto the farthest setting of the sun? I would not leave my robe, nor yet my crown, my scimitar. See, Christian, how it shines.
Sound.
Full well thou likest it now, it shall be thine. Hold him, I'll butcher up the slave despite of all the qualities of art.
Enter Selimus, a soldier pursuing him.
Help! Help! Oh, help!
The voice doth show like little Selimus. Ah, 'tis 'Tis he. Stay, soldier, stay thy hands. Stay and take a ransom what thyself will ask.
Forbear the blow. See where my father sits and proffers ransom for his only son.
Obey him yet.
Why sits my father as a man secure, careless to help his only Selimus, or else to fly, for why the enemy hath sallied out Ravenna with his force, spoiled thy camp, and left not one alive. Only myself did save my life by flight. What pursuit this soldier gave me chase. So at thy feet thy son must either die, or else have life by thy persuading words.
How his lament doth wring me at the heart, to see the boy, the babe of my delights, ready to die, and I can lend no aid. I sit enchained with sprite. I cannot stir. I cannot move. Lording, stir you not?
Basshaw number 1. Do we have one? Liza.
The devil, I think, or else some worser, hath so enchanted us we cannot move.
Strike.
Ah, father, now the baleful blade is up. Help now or never, father. Shall I die?
Ha! Might I die with thee, then were I well.
Remember how my mother loves me well. Think how she'll shed her brinish tears for me when Selimus, her only son, must die. For her sake, gentle father, save my life. Give all thy kingdom for thy only son.
Strike.
Hold, Bacon. Take thou my crown, my robe, my scimitar, and what else I have. Only entreat to save my little son. Entreat, nay charge, for thy command is done.
Deliver them unto my man, and Bacon swears to thee, thy son shall have no prejudice at all.
Master, shall I give him my cap, my gown, my sword, and then I cannot say that we are beholding to him, for exchange is no robbery. I remember once at Oxford in a comedy your worship put me to play the part of a chimney sweeper, and after to clear the stage, carried me away in a cloak bag. Now, this is like to prove a tragedy. I put on the Turk's robes and make an exit in his best apparel.
Bacon, now thou hast all, deliver thou me my son.
Astro, go shrive thyself, and him straight in the deep.
Ha! Help! Help!
Bacon, what hast thou done?
Taken thy robes, and send thy son to hell. Thus English Bacon bids the Turk farewell.
Good man, Turk. I believe you will love hog's flesh the worst this 7 year. You've been so hardly handled by Bacon.
And they exit.
Now can I stir, now that the slave is gone. My limbs have wanted liberty again.
And so have mine, my lord, but whither shall we fly? This cursed Bacon will haunt us at the heels.
How can I live now that my son is dead? Now Selimus, my only son, is slain.
Enter Selimus.
My lord, see where Selimus comes.
Selimus? Ah, no, it is his ghost.
All hail unto the mighty Ameroth. Thy lords are all in council of the state, and brought some present business to be done, and sent me to entreat your majesty with short repair unto your royal tents.
Selimus, my son. What? Dost thou live, my boy?
What makes my father make a question so? I was not sick, but frolic, as you see. Then who dares offer Selim any wrong?
I say, my son, wert thou not here even now, suppliant to the soldiers' feet for life, saying our Basshaws all were put to the sword?
Who? I? My lord, my tutor and myself have all this day been plodding at our books until the lords entreated me to come.
I say to this, my lords.
Bacon, by magic spells, raised up some sprite in likeness of your son, and by that means hath got your robes away. For he that could enchant us to stand still could do as great a miracle as this.
Now that I have my Selimus again, This tragic stir is all turned all to joy. Welcome, my boy, to my robes adieu. Let Friar Bacon wear them for my sake. Well may he boast he's cousin to the Turk. So fine he fetched me off with his deceit. Yet is the friar a man in all his word. My Selimus is safe, and so he fared. But if I live, I'll down to Hoswood Plains, and fetch from Frederick my crown, my sword and scimitar, or die.
So again, it's really interesting. We have a very similar in shape scene to some action we've got before. The question of being able to pull out swords, or people frozen with Jedi mind powers kind of stuff. Visions being presented that disappear. But again, it's a darker tone, isn't it? It's a much darker. This is a place of war. And the question I noted at the beginning of the scene was just how would Friar Bacon have got captured? That seems very strange. And then it turns out no, it's semi-deliberate. He's got a bet on, and this is how he achieves it. I'm assuming the sound, that second sound, I don't know what that's supposed to mean, whether that's a magic-y sound to Presage, and whether that's possibly slightly misplaced. Remember, we don't know precisely where certain things in this manuscript might live. There might be some misplacement, especially any kind of stage direction. We need a Selimus vanishing sort of stage direction in there at some point as well as Bacon and Perce, etc. So, trapdoors, perhaps. Thoughts? Wave at me.
I mean, okay, the inevitable pun was made. Muslims don't eat pork. Here's bacon. I bet you hate pork even more now. Terrible. Really.
It's a terrible joke, yeah. And it is amazing that we haven't had any proper bacon jokes like this so far. I mean, it's
the first one, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't think we've had anything, have we? I mean, it's so inappropriate and painful that it's just, very wrong. Helen.
Yeah, I'm interested in Perce, who I mentally think of as being short for Percy, but never mind.
Piers, I think.
Piers, yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking of changing it, but I'm going with Perce. He's much more intelligent than Miles. The problem with Perce, though, is he says exactly what comes into his head. So he sees the Turk in an enormous turban and says he must have a terrible headache to need so many cloths on his head.
And he makes a very specific reference to a theatrical comedy in Oxford kind of thing, which feels like there's an in-joke there that we don't know.
Yeah.
But they do seem distinctly, does anyone feel that Miles and Perce are just a renamed same person? Or do other people agree with Helen that it's a fundamentally different part?
I don't. I thought he was the same person.
Dan?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I purposely chose to do the same voice with that when I was reading ahead on how does this character scan, and so I'm going to continue doing that just to see if it starts to flow like Miles, or if it doesn't, then just change it around. But I just wanted to test that out for a little while.
I mean, we don't have to come up with they've got different names, so we can say they're different people. But if we're thinking about doing these back to back, or someone is, then maybe the logic is you make them the same. But then maybe you need to make interventions. Who knows? Other thoughts?
So are we saying Miles came back from hell?
Well, who knows? Who knows? Maybe he'll turn up later. He might be in at the end.
I mean, I'm sure it's the same actor.
Right.
Well, there's the question. Of course, it's a sequel and possibly for a different company as well. So the question of who's playing who and for why becomes even more tricksy.
So it's almost certainly a different clown then.
Well, not necessarily, because the company that originally this was for sort of disintegrated. So there's all sorts of questions that we can't really answer.
Oh, real life drama.
Oh yeah, it's total carnage in the early 1590s for a while.
I think the audience would have genuinely been shocked at Bacon's apparent killing of Selimus. I think that part is written for a very small boy actor. You know, he's called Little Selimus, and you know, I think Bacon as an apparent child killer until what he did is revealed, you know, it might.
There's no signposting, is there, at all? You know that this is coming.
No, I was quite surprised by Selimus coming back.
Yeah.
And Ameroth was another.
Sorry, Elizabeth, say again.
They were quite tempered. Bacon with Bungay from the previous play. They worked off against each other quite well. But with this one, we have Bacon, who seems to step to the fore in the beginning. And it reminded me of the Battle of Alcazar in it. It was Battle of Alcazar, where the Turkish plays. So we're starting to move more into the history, except from outside of the pastoral, where we had that Ferdinand and Flanagan, and it's moving into the war-struck, battle-worn history play, tragedy, that we've done so much of before.
Yes, it seems to be shifting genres but using a property that sort of was doing something very different. And yeah, yes. we're crossing all sorts of boundaries and questions there. Any additional new thoughts before we move forward? Okay, let's crack on. If I can find my place. Yes, so yes, we're going to recoup on Ferdinand, who returns now, and we get a proper meet of Rosalind. Enter Rosalind and Ferdinand.
Sorry. Be courteous, Rose, as thou art heavenly fair. Fair Rosaline, take ruth of my distress. Passions in love are passages to death, and sorrow pricks the sting of deep effect than any pain that can torment the heart. See I thy face, my thoughts are full of fire, but as the oil doth make the fire more great, so tears quench not, but doth increase the heat.
What sugared words drops from a lover's tongue? How painted is the speech that love affords? Ah, watch you so, and talk as well of chastity as lust. 'Twere far more better for his princely state. These foolish passions little please my mind. It fits not married wives to list to love. A willing ear bewrays a wanton heart, and therefore pardon, for I must depart.
Absence is death upon so coy disdain. Stay, Rosaline, be pliant to my plaints. Thou canst not have a truer love than I.
Nor none so true as John of Bordeaux is.
Hold, take this treasure, treasure of my heart, a sacrifice for my submissive thought, which humbly bows before thy beauteous feet.
Are you still there, Rosalind?
Sorry, I had a glitch, but I'm back. Tempt me not, wanton lord, with strains of sin, for no corruption shall enchant my mind. Rather in sorrow let me beg my bread, and work in sorrow to maintain my state, before I false my faith unto my lord.
My countenance shall overbear that blame.
A wretched colour for a sinful life, where honour's veil doth shadow lawless lust. My lord, the faith of John of Bordeaux, his services in your royal father's wars, his wounds, his blood in country's quarrel shed, deserve then this requital at your hands, that thus you seek to spoil his married wife? For shame forbear, for if you thus persever, the emperor shall know how much you wrong me.
Wilt thou be gone?
Peace, siren tempt me no more. unless you will the world shall hear your shame.
And wilt thou part, thou son of my delight, from whence the lower lights of Glorian derive their beauties and do draw their clear? Then, in some dark and obscure cell of care, where melancholy dwells or sorrow haunts, I will go sigh my sacrifice to love.
Enter Vandermast.
How now, my lord? What is this woman one? I heard fair Rossalin and you were here, that made me hie me for to her what news.
Ah, Vandermast, Daphne was ne'er so coy, nor Roman Lucrece half so chaste in thoughts. Plead I, she hath excuses for my suit, so chaste, so honest, and so resolute, that they gall and pinch me to the heart.
Why then you are no cunning wooer, for women will be won.
Then all but she, for do I proffer love, she swears it is not love, but lust. Present I gold, she scorns the plea of pelf, and jewels, why she holds them all as trash. And but her husband, all unfit for her, were the greatest monarch of the world. Thus she disdains. And yet in her mislike she harbours matchless chastity and love. That honour wills me not to work her wrong. But spite of honour, and all royal thoughts, love says I must. And then by heaven I will. Then task the Vandermast unto thy books, help by thy art. Let magic be a means to get me grace of lovely Rossaline, and I will make thee partner of my wealth.
Ah, Ferdinand, the mind is such a thing as is beyond the reach of any art. She that is chaste cannot be won with charms.
Then all my love is buried up in loss.
Not so, my lord. We'll have another plot where wealth wins not a woman unto love. There rather is abundance or contempt. But let that damsel be oppressed with want, touch her with need, and that will make her shrink. Were Rossalin deprived of her state, and poor as now she overflows with wealth, girt with distress, she would be soon reclaimed, and glad for gold to yield to any love.
But how shall this be brought to pass?
Why, thus I'll raise a spirit in some Turkish shape, like to a messenger from Ameroth, and he shall bring a letter from his lord, wherein Sir John of Bordeaux's private hand shall be set down with livery counterfeit, how that for gold he will resign the town and all the treasure to the mighty Turk. When thus your father is incensed with ire, buzz in his ears suspicion of the man, and leave not harping on that hateful string till he be driven as exile from the land, and wife and children turn it out of doors. When thus she sees that fortune gins to frown, then will she change her thoughts and smile in time.
Well, if this will not do, how then?
Then thus, my lord. When lovely in her bed the lady lies, secure within the harbour of her thoughts, I'll bring her in her nightgown unto you. If then you win not, your worthy loss.
So pleasing is the promise of thy speech that I am eased of half my deep despair. For proof, I mean to quit thy travails well. Thou shalt receive these jewels Rossaline refused. And Jackies, come this day and dine with me.
And so it gets darker and darker. It starts with an unrequited love scene, and Vandermast comes in. We don't have a stage direction for the in the manuscript for the exit of Rossalin, but sometime during that speech with Ferdinand, she has to have exited. And then, yeah, Vandermast turns up to be a bit of a bastard.
Well,
I mean,
Ferdinand doesn't come out too well either.
Yeah.
Ferdinand doesn't come out too well.
Oh yeah, but he's not the one who's suggesting what the plot is. He just goes along with it. It's the Vandermast comes up with the idea. Let's just ruin their lives. Let's just totally destroy them. That's a great plan. As set up. I mean, it's quite a plan.
Yeah, And I mean, apart from the personal harm to Rossalin and John, there's also the whole war against the Ottoman Empire, or the baby Ottoman Empire, that's just going to go to hell because, I don't know, because Ferdinand's an incel.
Yeah, I mean, we sort of established that Ferdinand wasn't exactly a sterling chap, but they really have taken selfishness to a new level. Other thoughts? Jitka?
Yeah, I think it's a bit more striking with Vandermast, because we have seen him in the previous play, unlike Ferdinand. And the impression I got of him in the previous play was, this academic, unpleasant German who loses an academic disputation and is carried away with his Hercules and a tree. It didn't have those sinister undertones that it's getting here as the dark arts lord.
Yeah, I think that Perce, who signposted said this is much more like a tragedy this time around. It's really coming forward there. That's no longer the mustache twirling villain that Vandermast sometimes sounded like in the last play. It's not sounding that way at all anymore.
Yes, Perce talking inside and outside of the play at the same time. I think that's a really good call. I love that. Any additional thoughts at this time, Liza?
Well, I think it's interesting that Vandermast proposes, the scheme that Vandermast proposes to tar Sir John's reputation is very little to do with magic. It's mostly just slander. He wants to, I get the feeling that the spirit in the shape of a Turkish messenger, which takes, all of 2 lines, was just sort of shoehorned in because it had to be magic somehow.
Right.
Well, magic's expensive, just being nasty and just forging some documents. That's that's cheaper.
Well, what he says is that he can't use his art on, she can't be won with charms. He's got to find some other scheme.
Yeah, but then he offers to...
It's beyond the reach of magic.
Yeah, but then he offers to bring her naked to him. So, isn't that magic?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, he can physically teleport her. He just can't make her yield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move on into the next scene, and hopefully a change of tone, because here we have enter Perce and 2 scholars.
Come hither, Perce. Tell us, how long hast thou served Friar Bacon?
Marry, ever since Friar Bacon hath been my master.
And I prithee, Perce, what hath he taught thee?
Marry, that he had taught me 3 principles, and these may they be: imprimis, that a good fellow's purse is like a pot of ale, for every man will have a flirt at it till it be empty.
What's the next?
The second, that he that hath neither money nor credit may make all the week fasting days by authority.
Oh, excellent, Perce. What's the last?
Lastly, he that means to live in this world must have his tongue made of a painter's apron, spotted of all colours, if faith, brace, cog, lie, and dissemble, or else, if he live never so honestly, he shall die a stark beggar.
But tell me, Perce, he being so learned a man, hath he taught thee any Latin?
I marry either. You shall hear some, if ne suter ultra crepidam.
What's the meaning?
If a scholar prove a constable, have not your shoes mended of him that year.
Your reason, Perce?
Marry, if not for working your shoes, where you should have the knave upon his shoulders, his office would reward you with a pair of stocks for your labour.
But Perce, hath he taught to distinguish a noun adjunctive from a noun substantive?
Aye, he have, and this it is. A noun adjunctive is a barrel of strong beer, for if it be ipsy he, in barrel, termed or titled by the name of Huffcap, it will make a man not able to stand by himself, but throw him for a noun adjunctive quite under the table.
Well said, Perce. Now, what's a noun substantive?
Oh, my masters, wherever noun substantive, it's a dangerous point of learning. For I knew a wench in Oxford, dear so long with a noun substantive, that first she cried out of a chopping boy, and after was whipped up and down the town for lechery.
But Perce, hath he taught thee no point of magic? We're so dry with talking, we know not what to do. Now, if thou couldst conjure us 2 bottles of ale hither, we would honour forever.
Why, what drive slaves are you? I'm sure I have walked my leather in my mouth as much as you, and yet I am not dry. Come hither, let's reason with you in a matter of doctrine. What is your profession?
Philosophy. And here is Plato.
First scholar produces a book.
Philosophy. And here is Plato. This is Plato. What is your profession?
Logic. And here is Aristotle.
The second scholar produces a book.
Logic. And here is Aristotle. Well, here I put in Plato. And here I put in Aristotle. Now you would think strange to turn your books, 2 books into 2 bottles of ale. Now, if I be Friar Bacon's or no, judge you. Here is Plato for you, and here is Aristotle for you. Now drink to me, and I'll be moderator in this controversy. Well said, Plato. Oh, well done, Aristotle. Thou goest to the ground of the matter. Now your dry scholars indeed. Drink of Plato and Aristotle.
Gramercy, good 1,000 times. Come, prithee, give us our books. Our hour is come. We cannot stay. Another time we'll do as much for thee.
Nay, nay, your books are turned into bottles of ale. For as it were a point of magic to turn your books into 2 bottles of ale, so it is a point of philosophy. You should pay for your ale before you have your books.
Why, Perce, our books cost us a crown.
All the better for me, for my bottles cost me but 3 pence. Now, if by magic you can get your books again, I'll say, Vandermast hath taught you somewhat, if not, fools, I found you, and thou, I leave you.
And they exit. It's interesting. This scene started off and I was going, oh God, it's the clown doing funny business. But then you're going, no, that's not quite what's going on here. The scholars are actively trying to mock and get Perce to say things that he doesn't quite understand in this sort of bragging way that he has, even though they're clearly going, go on, you tell us what a noun substantive is. Go on, let's hear what his answer is. Let's hear what his answer is. And of course, he's not so much of an idiot not to realise that they're mocking him. So he then having been requested to turn books into ale, he does so, and then like one of those magicians who breaks your watch and then doesn't turn it back again, goes, sorry, that's what you asked for. So it's a sort of revenge quality to this. So the comic business at the beginning is actually slightly darker, I think. That's how I'm reading it. Because otherwise it's utterly bamboozling. I sort of understand how some of those jokes are function, but making them land, that's tough. That's tough. Alan first.
Yeah, I think actually in the last line, it should be fools I found you and fools I leave you would make more sense.
Yeah.
Unless it's an exit fart gag. Not pulling it past him. It's a good question there. It could be. Vowels can be any other vowel.
It's perfectly possible that it is. I don't know. I've marked it to look at again. I think there is a big problem for the director here in deciding exactly how far Perce has gone in magic. I mean, there are 2 things he can do. One is he can magically turn their books into bottles of ale, which they then drink. Or he can put the book in his bag and produce from his bag a bottle of ale without any magic at all, and then just refuse to give the books back. And it's very much up to and there are a lot of things that can happen in between. those two.
Right.
So I think it's very much a matter of which is why there aren't any stage directions in here, except the two that I introduced produces a book, without which the scene became totally incomprehensible.
Right.
Dan?
This is one of those things where I wonder if, obviously the book, the playbook will not tell everything. So stage directions, even though somebody has certainly gone ahead, a bookkeeper has gone ahead and inscribed a number of stage directions, there are a number of other things that could be unsaid that the actors know or are somewhere else to do there. So it's totally within the realm of possibility that there are those bottles that maybe like you suggest are in the bag there or elsewhere, but not everything needs to be marked for it to obviously happen, even though this is a manuscript that was marked for performance.
Yes, I mean, what I'm saying is there's an awful lot of ambiguity in this scene, and it all depends on how good we know. Well, we may find that Perce has other qualities, but here you have to decide whether Perce is actually going to do some magic or whether he's just taking the piss out of them.
Yes. Does magic require actual scholastic ability, or is it something you can pick up as a journeyman? Tamara?
It's funny because now I'm doubting myself, because I saw it as him just going, there go the books, here comes the bottle.
Yeah.
Rather than any sort of magic being involved. Less because of him potentially being less educated, or demonstrably being less educated than the scholars in some sense, but because I felt like he was clocking that they were making fun of him, so he then made fun of them by doing this thing that is just a trick rather than actual magic.
I think psychologically that works better. Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
Yeah, I think it's funnier that way.
Yeah, because then he can mug to the audience and play to that and go, look how clever I am, in that cunning way. I'm going to have to force us forward, I'm afraid, people, into the next scene. So, enter Emperor and his son, Friar Bacon, John of Bordeaux's young son Rossacler, and Vandermast. There is a sounding.
How likest me, Bacon, in my Turkish robes? How sits this diadem upon my head? How hangs my scimitar? What grace they mean? Adorn they my imperial state, or no?
Frederick looks like the haughty god of war when, clad in pomp of all his royalty, he shows the triumphs of his thoughts in heaven.
Now follow it, friar, I prithee, tell me why great Ameroth deprives these things so dear.
For that the forging of that diadem 'twas done by Ottoman, from whose descent the Turkish princes draw their pedigree. The monument of all their royalties depended on the wearing of that crown as sacred from the head of Ottoman.
Art cannot do so great a thing, my lord.
Bacon had thy glass been whole, which thou didst break at Oxford. In a spleen I might in that have clearly seen my wish, for thou art master of all sciences.
My lord, although my glass be broke, was Bacon's cunning tied within a glass? Now please it mighty Frederick to see the warlike stratagems before Ravenna wars. I show you in a dream what's there performed, as lively as yourself were present there.
Spoke like a man of art, do me that good. But soft, how shall I fall into a dream, having no mind at all to sleep?
For that, let me alone. Only sit still, while Vandermast, your son, and I attend your grace. Now, Morpheus, rise.
Here's a chime.
Then from thy sable den shake off thy robes of love, take thee to arms, wash all thy weeds in baleful Acheron, to show the end of stratagems and blood. And Isolon, thou mighty god of streams, Great Isolon, thou figurest forth in sleep visions and shows of mighty stratagems. I charge thee, show to sleeping Frederick the troops and coronets of Turkish horse. Show him the battles of great Ameroth and Phobiter in thy warlike frowns. Bring John of Bordeaux and his soldiers forth. Show him the combat and the victory. Join you in on Morpheus, Phobiter, and Isolon. Et fiat spectator omnium, Frederick.
Exit Bacon to bring in the shows, as you know. Sound a Senate.
Base villain, why retirest thou?
Says your highness.
Ah, son, my spirit was not here, but at Ravenna in the battle was my soul. But where is Bacon?
He is gone, my lord.
Ah, Vandermast, as in my sleep I lay, I saw great Ameroth in royalty, marching with many thousand Janissaries, ready to give assault into the town. But John of Bordeaux, breaking off their sack, fearful to fight within a guarding wall, set open the gates and made a sally forth, and set upon the Turks with such resolve, that at the first the pagans fled the field, but with a squadron of approved men. The Basshaws enter, 9 their very slaves, and gave a hotter charge upon Sir John, so that the knight was forced to retire, for very grief to see Lord Bordeaux fly. I started up, and waking from my dreams, cried out, Base villain, why retirest thou?
And here enter the actor John Holland with a letter.
You, your highness, but so much as I, you'd say 'twere treason, and not cowardice, that made the traitor Bordeaux to retire.
Take heed, my son, Sir John was ever true.
Then see, my lord, the tenor of his hand.
Can such treason harbour in his breast? Hath Bordeaux lived these many winters true, and now prove false under his suffering? Who brought these letters, Ferdinand?
The son of Ameroth did send it me, to show how false we Christians are in faith. 'Twas brought me by a warlike janissary. For proof, my lord, here is the man himself, but little privy to what news he brought.
Savio, post-day to Ravenna straight, discharge Sir John of Bordeaux from the town, and banish him for ever forth my land. Take thou unto thyself the town in guard, and son, command some officer that straight he seize upon his house and goods, and turn fair Rossalin and all her brats, naked and poor, from forth their native home. With this proviso, that no one will leave this woeful lady in her deep extremes, with bread to eat, or drink to quench their thirst. Go, son, see you dispatch it presently. Come hither, Rossacler. What thinkest thou of thy father's treachery?
As fits a son, that I am greatly grieved to think my father in his aged years should step awry that flourished in his youth.
What thinkest thou that I have exiled him?
As fits a subject, what my prince sets down to hold it as a principle of law.
What thinkest thou of thy mother's misery?
Nature in that doth sting me at the heart, in that your grace forbids relief of food, but not such succour or as sharp sorrow yields.
Well hast thou answered, witty Rossacler, like one that keeps a hat before the door. But Sirrah, leave my cup, I will not trust the son whose father had been touched with treachery.
And there's a flourish.
What old John of Bordeaux false? Come, Vandermast, we'll in and shall think of this deeper thoughts.
And exits. Of course, where the flourishes live, sounding of senates, bits and bobs like that, they're always a little questionable. I love the stage direction, exit Bacon to bring in the shows, as you know. Sadly, because you didn't write it down, we don't. We can guess from the dialogue, but...
As you know.
Yes. Also, the fact that the actor identified who's bringing on the letter is identified as the actor's name rather than a character's name, which is nice. Nice little detail, nice and useful. Again, it starts quite nicely because you got the thing of, hey, look, do you like my new thing nicked from the other side? It's rather cool. And, you know, business with Bacon, and Bacon does this beautiful show from the front line. He's using his magic callback to the glass that was broken. They obviously, he doesn't need a palantir to make his to see far away. And then obviously the evil plot by letter turns everything a bit sad. General thoughts, relatively quick, because we've still got one short scene to do before the end of the session.
That shutters up.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't do quick.
Well, just anything. Who wants to jump in?
I'm just going to. I think it's astonishing that the whole course of the war is being put in jeopardy because of Ferdinand's lust thing. You know, nobody seems to think that it's weird, or he and Vandermast don't think it's weird.
He genuinely doesn't seem to care, does he? I mean, obviously, only he and Vandermast know, and you know, maybe one or two other people. But you know, yeah, it's astonishingly selfish. Vicky.
It's also, I think, quite unusual that Ferdinand isn't after a kind of young, virtuous girl, but she's a married woman. She has at least several children, and one of those children is old enough to be there and have the king saying to him, "Look what your father did." And there's answering in a very fluent way, which suggests he is at least an adult, so his mother is older than one would expect the young prince to be kind of flouncing after.
I'm guessing this is the same very small boy actor who probably played Selimus.
Yeah, I'm feeling there's a doubling there. Yeah.
He speaks very well to be such a young child.
It's true, but a cupbearer was often a boy, and the emperor takes his cup back.
Yes, because he's not going to trust that child again with his with anything he's going to drink, and it's very pointed. And that you know, then see my lord the tenor of his hand the moment Ferdinand hands the letter across. We don't have a stage direction stating that. The line is very clear. That's the point when the letter gets handed across. Jitka, I think I saw your hand.
Yeah, it's really striking to see Bacon in this new transformation, because at the end of the last play, you know, he was very penitent about his dark art and was promising to, you know, do better, and he's not just proud again of that which caused 4 deaths in the previous bit, but also he's really cozying up to statesman in ways we haven't seen before. He's no longer that academic who is just concerned with his art and libraries and his college. This is a very different person.
You know, it's war. That's what it is. It's war. It's changing everyone. Anybody else before we look in the final scene for the section? Okay, we're going back to Perce, eyes down, and the scholars. Let's see where this story takes us. So enter Perce with the scholars.
Oh, come on, Perce. We must be beholding to thee once again. We are so hungry, we know not what to do. And we have no money, not a cross.
Why? Are you scholars of Holzberg, and can you not get meat without money? Why, I'm ashamed of you. You shall not say, but Perce hath a head like an aquavitae bottle. You shall see me furnish you with meat and a fig for money.
How, Perce? I promise thee we know not.
Be wise, and I'll teach you to get meat without money. Cannot you come into an alehouse and set your cap at one side hufty-tufty, and look as big as thou you had a mint in your pocket, and say, "Hostess, what meat hast thou for us? Hast thou ever a cold capon, a pasty of venison, or a rib of roast beef?" These words ties the good wife to a low courtesy, that she, taking you for some gentleman, says, "And please your worship," mark those phrases, "I am not provided for your worship's diet." Then must you say again, "Faith, hostess, although I could go to a pasty of venison, yet I hold it not the part of a gentleman to forsake his hostess' house. Therefore, set such meat as thou hast upon the board. At that word, the old wife trotteth. The ombre flies open, then comes forth, marching in a wooden hand in hand, a brace of black puddings, suited in leather jerkins, a brown loaf, a hog's face, a mess of mustard, and to make the show more excellent, 2 red herrings clad in tawny as mourning for the death of old Jack of Lent.
Ay, marry, Perce. But when we have eaten this good, how shall we do for money to pay for it?
How shall we do for money to pay for it? Faith, I think thy head was made of an old bagpipe that hath no wind but what is blown into it, nor thou no wit in thy head but what must be put into it. Ay, is there any alehouse so poor that hath not a post and a piece of chalk, or any old wife so unskilful in arithmetic that cannot figure out 4 pence? I tell thee, my friend, as many writings are the beauty of a scrivener's shop, so many scores are the glory of an alehouse.
But how, if she will not trust us?
How, if she will not trust us? Now comes he in sneaking. How, and she will not trust us? Bring me to an alehouse and let me alone.
Marry, Perce, and here's one. Let's see your cunning.
Oh, who keeps house here? What the door shut in an alehouse? Where be these whores? Cargo, come forth, and let us see your commodity. Was not this spoke as if every word rattled from a satin doublet?
Enter the old woman.
Who's there? Rot roister at my door. You're heartily welcome, gentlemen. What lack ye? What would you have?
Mary, mother, here are a crew of gentlemen come to breakfast. What good meat hast thou for us?
What meat would you have, gentlemen?
What meat would we have? Why, thou old maple-faced matron, thou rat's-coloured ruffian, look in my face and see if thou canst spy any baser cates than a cold capon, a fat pig, or a pasty of venison.
Alas, my son, I had no such cheer in my house this 7 year.
Why, what meat hast thou?
Marry, son, I have a good fat tripe or a black pudding.
A black pudding? Oh, mother, thou hast spoken treason to my stomach. How darest thou name a black pudding, and have not an aqua vitae bottle by thy side? Why, 'tis even as well as if a lover should clap his mistress in the head with a crack angel.
I would we had it, Perce.
Aye, so would I, Mary. For a tripe, I think, I could make shift withal.
Marry, sir, and you shall have a fat one and a white one of my own dressing.
Of your own dressing, mother?
Aye, of my own dressing.
Come on, my masters, we shall have a fat tripe of my hostess's own dressing, sweet and clean as it came from the butcher's.
And they exit, presumably indoors. It's interesting. Is this the logic of the ruder that you are, the more wealthy they expect you to be?
Yeah.
That seems to be the game. And I'm fascinated by the repetition and the possibilities that gives. And I'm starting to warm a bit to Perce. Some of his comedy business has been rather tedious. There's a lot of work to be made at times, but this one's warm. I'm warming to this scene. It's got potential. Thoughts?
I'm really warming to Perce. I like this scene. I think it's very good, very funny. It reminds me of Withnell and Withnell and I, going into the pub and saying, could I have one of your finest ales? It's very good.
Mm. And I think that what you've got here is the Oxford man finding himself at a totally different university saying, this is how we do it in Oxford.
Mm.
you poor benighted foreigners who don't know the tricks.
Yes, it's the wisdom of the scoundrel to the as opposed to the wisdom of the learned man.
Yes, yes, but he's good at it.
Mm.
I mean, he's competent at putting on the posh voice and duping the old woman.
Yes, let us see your commodity, and saying, was this not spoke as if every word rattled from a satin doublet? I like that as a phrasing.
Good phrase. Although I do wonder what language he's speaking to the old woman in.
Oh.
English quite loud and quite slowly. Standard approach as foreigners.
Well, miraculously she understands him.
Oh, I'm sure she's used to tourists.
She's in the hospitality business.
Yeah, in the middle of a war, you can't be choosy.
What's a cracked angel?
I don't know. I was wondering that.
It's a coin.
Coin, yeah.
It's a coin.
Yeah, and
about 13 and fourpence.
Oh, I see. Yes, I see where that sentence is going now. Yeah.
Thank you. So it's like giving a counterfeit coin to a prostitute. Is that what he's saying?
Yeah.
Counterfeit, clipped, or damaged.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, let's rattle into final thoughts then. The play so far, you can also briefly dip into a bit of the end of Friar Bacon if you so choose. Yeah, they're very different beasts, but also very similar beasts. They're playing a lot of the same notes, but in a different key. Whereas last time we were going, is this a comedy? Well, it is a comedy, but it's also lots of other things. Whereas this one, is this a tragedy with lots of other things? Where's it going? I don't know where it's going. If it's by Greene, then we should not have a clue. If it's by somebody imitating Greene, then maybe also we won't have a clue. Who knows? Who wants to dip in first before I start picking on people? Anyone want a final thought? I say Jitka has caved.
Yeah, why is this called the second part of Friar Bacon? I don't understand. And I wonder whether people who went to see this, whatever the circumstances of performance, what their response would be. Because they're, I think that was a good metaphor, a different key. But it's, I think my expectations would have been really challenged as an audience, wanting to have the sort of fun and the sort of jokes and tone and classic allusions that we find in the first part. So this is a striking name, the second part of Friar Bacon, as a subtitle.
Yeah, I agree. And just to follow on from that, like what you were saying, Jitka, before about Bacon being a different sort of figure, I think that's right. He comes across as someone who's more interested in war. He's still kind of a bit of a idiot figure, but it's not, he's not the magician that he was, the kind of figure of fun. He's much more warlike, and that's interesting. That must have been a shock to the audience if they were expecting him to be the same.
Well, it's interesting. In the last play, I was feeling he was just very bad-tempered a lot of the time, and he wasn't sort of very interested in engaging with a lot of what everybody else was doing, and he seems a little more active here. Valentina next.
I was kind of thinking, on that, why is he called John of Bordeaux? Is he coming back? Because it's kind of everybody's talking about him, but he hasn't really done much. He's out fighting the war.
Yes, there's a lot of action happening around him, but his actual stage time is not high. Helen, final thoughts?
On a point of that, the play isn't called John of Bordeaux. This play is from a completely crappy manuscript. I'll put a picture of a page on the Facebook, and it has been given the title of John of Bordeaux. I call it Friar Bacon Rides Again, but
yes,
but I mean you can call it what you will. Only don't call it what you will.
I'm pretty sure that title's taken.
Yeah, we're not going there.
All is true.
Alan, before I crack the duck.
I would have thought actually calling it Bacon Redux might actually work. I'm not enjoying this anything like as much as the previous play. It has a feel to me that Bacon and Bungay had probably been a commercial success, fine, but let's nick a few of the characters and carry them over into something new. Oh, and wait a minute, there was that play about Selimus. That did quite well as well. Let's just take the two together. And, we've got a comic here who's got a load of material which doesn't seem to have got any relationship to anything else, but that's usually good for getting a few bums on seats. And it just, at the moment, feels like a total mishmash. Almost as a greatest hits show.
I'm not sure I quite agree on that level. I mean, yes, they nick a name from Selimus, but apart from that, I don't see any textual connection apart from some of the setting. But in terms, I mean, in structure, it's very much someone who's read Friar Bacon and takes the overall shape of how that play works, and they've just it's Friar Bacon on his holidays. It's on the buses in holiday special. In that sense, so it's not unlike other sequels. You take the same basic set of setups and you move them elsewhere. I think the tone is very different though, or it's coming across very different. Maybe in performance it doesn't, and maybe we're overemphasizing that thing. But I think it's much more coherent than that. It seems a thing at the moment. Sarah, final thought.
Well, I can't really comment on that because I wasn't here for the last play other than the last 3 scenes.
How are you finding this play? How are you finding it?
I think there's a really interesting theme of entitlement in this play, which I don't know if I'm reading too much into it or not, but you've got, and I don't know, was Perce in the previous play? I'm guessing he was. No, he wasn't. No. Okay. Because Perce is reminding me a lot of Boris Johnson.
Possibly he was.
Oh, okay, right.
He could be Miles, you see. He could have been the comic servant.
Well, yeah. I mean, he's reminding me a lot of Boris Johnson. There's this whole Bullingdon Club thing going on, whether he is actually that kind of character or whether he's putting it on. Either way, he's sort of showing how, if you walk into a place and you act massively entitled and a bit like a bit of a twat, you can get away with pretty much anything. And then, of course, that is kind of echoing what I suppose you would call the A-plot, which is, Ferdinand is just this incredibly entitled twat. He's just this prince who's decided he wants this woman, and he's prepared to just, do anything to get her, and, not quite apart from the whole moral thing if she's married and she's not into him. I mean, that's one whole massive issue in itself, but there's the other, aspect with his father and the war. And he just doesn't care. So it's I'm going to be interested to see how this turns out, whether it's going to be entitlement rewarded play or entitlement, don't get above yourself kind of play, or maybe if it is Greene, probably neither. I don't know, but I did think it was an interesting theme. The fact that the B plot echoed the A plot in that respect, I thought that was quite intriguing.
It depends very much on the class of Perce. I mean, he's very good at doing an impression of someone with entitlement, but he's presumably much lower status. But we'll see whether we get more evidence later. Pamela, final thought.
I agree with some of what Alan was saying. I don't really get the connection between the comedy and the rest of the plot. I get that it's breaking it up a bit, but for me, it just feels a bit weird, and I feel like I've missed something, so I'm not sure I know really what's going on at all. And I'm not sure if I'm just having a thick day, but yeah, it's not connecting with me.
Tamara wants to leap in.
Yeah, just because I felt that way when I came in on Wednesday for the original Friar Bacon, and I'm still a bit confused like that myself. This obviously mirrors it. Trying to, I don't want to make predictions.
Go for it. We love it when you make predictions.
I'm kind of hoping for a sort of mirrorverse if there's any Trekkies here for this play, but that might.
I'll lower the lighting. Right, Elizabeth, final thoughts.
Yes, it's moving to. It's interesting that Selimus is a character in this because it's moving into the area of the play in Selimus, which is a far cry from Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay. It's lost a lot of the cuteness and the how do I describe it? The joviality. We were saying that Friar Bacon is jolly, but Friar Bungay is merry. And there's no merriment or jolliness in this so far.
Aliki, final thoughts?
So yeah, bacon and black pudding. This is the full English breakfast of plays. I don't really have any thoughts. I'm finding the whole thing quite unpleasant, that entitlement we were talking about, and I'm interested to see where it goes. Yeah.
Vicky, final thoughts?
I think, like Sarah, I just had the tail end of previous play and I kind of jumped into this one, and it seems strange to me that it is a sequel because the tail end of the last one was so happy and nice. Oh, it's all fabulous, and now suddenly it's gotten very twisty and nasty.
Yeah.
I'm quite, maybe enjoying is a strong word, but I am quite intrigued that they're doing so many vicious things to get what they want, and I don't know, I want to see if they get it. And surely they won't, but then is John going to come back? I don't know, I'm intrigued. I'd like to see where it goes.
Dan, final thought?
Yeah, I really like the observation of the entitlement there. At the risk of making a film comparison, because everyone knows how much I disliked the Phantom Menace one weeks ago, but it is really bringing back, it's reminding me a lot of Ocean's 11 versus Ocean's 12, the much maligned Ocean's 12, which I think is highly underrated, actually. Because I feel like, just as Soderbergh had different things to say, the second one wanted to change the tone. I feel like Greene always has something to say and is always trying to make a point and doesn't seem to ever want to follow convention with the structure of his plays. I think it seems to me that he revels in trying to keep things open and not really give you what you expect there. Like I said about the signpost with that Perce did, I really feel like that he was letting the audience know, by the way, the Friar Bacon that you know is not the Friar Bacon that you're going to see here. The one reference to the possible title to it was in Henslowe's diary in 1593. It just said, received at Friar Bacon such and such shillings for it. And so people were questioning it because it said the Lord Strange's Men had played it at the Rose. But in 1594, the first quarto of Friar Bacon says it's owned property by the Queen's Men there. So that's why there's questions of who owned the play or which play it actually was there. But I'm curious. It started out a little slowly for me, but I think it's really picking up now.
Which leaves Liza, I think, last.
Yeah. Well, I would be interested. I mean, I get that this comes from a single manuscript, and I would be really interested to see if further editing could clean it up into something stage-worthy at all. Because it's tempting to say the quality of the writing here is not as good as last time, but it may simply be an editing thing, or a manuscript quality. Not your editing, Helen, but a manuscript quality thing, or the fact that Friar Bacon was in some sort edited for its two publications. I think part of the male entitlement that people are flagging up comes from the fact that there's so far, one female character plus the old hostess. The hostess, again, very well drawn. Unfortunately, they're going to bankrupt her because it's funny. But the first time we saw Margaret, her very first scene, her very first speech, she leapt off the page. You know, we knew exactly who she was, and we were intrigued to find out what she'd do next because we didn't know. Rossalin hasn't had that. Her first scene, she was just basically there to be an object of affection and to voice and to give voice simply to chastity in not very original terms. So I think we could do with some more female characters, and I would be interested to see if we get them. We've also had very little actual magic. We've had the set piece with the soldiers. We've had the appearance of Selimus, but that's not special effects magic. That's actor magic. We've had Perce swapping books for bottles of ale, but that could just be done by a clown with large trousers. That's sleight of hand, if anything. So I wonder if the Friar Bacon element wasn't tacked on to maybe an incomplete play about the siege of Ravenna, to capitalize on what had gone before. I mean, impossible to know, of course. Maybe I'm whistling in the dark here.
I really don't. I mean, if we're comparing the two plays, I mean, the amount of magic that we've had on stage is about the same by this stage in the play. We've had a massive dumb show that is only there intimated by the stage direction of here is this pageant perhaps that he's seeing in his head that he then describes. We've got the potential sword business and the potential Selimus business, which I think at this stage of the play is very much mirroring the dramaturgy that we had last time. In much of Friar Bacon, we didn't actually have that much on-stage magic. The first couple of sessions were mostly saying it's people just walking on and off stage.
We had special effects. We had the tree. We had Hercules destroying the tree.
Which, again, at this stage, we've had the pageant that Bacon brought on. I don't see that there's fundamentally that much different dramaturgically. And when you're saying about, is this clean-upable to be made stage-worthy, at the moment, I don't see anything fundamentally problematic about putting this on stage. There is a problem later on about putting this on stage. But I don't, if I didn't know the textual history and with a bit of tidying up, I don't know that I would be sitting here going that this is a fundamentally different play or a more problematic play as a text than Friar Bacon is. I just don't see that.
Can I just add one thing?
Yeah.
The funny thing about this play, this one single manuscript we have, is we actually do know it was staged because it's been marked up by at least 8 hands, 2 of them being bookkeepers who were marking it up to stage this play. This manuscript was written. There's questions about that will probably come up about who actually was the scribe on this. But somebody went through the trouble, a bunch of people went through the trouble to make sure to include all of the stage directions, include speech rules, include correct speech prefixes to make this stageable. So it's that we're lucky to see printed copies of other plays for which we've never seen the manuscripts, but who knows how they looked before they actually print. So.
Any other final thoughts now that we're very over time? So anyone desperate to jump in? No,
yeah, I would just very quickly. I would support the idea that Liza made, that it just feels less like magic. We don't have that pyromancy. Not just the special effects, which are there very much in the stage directions of the first play. The tree appears with the dragon shooting fire. It's something about having stage directions that say it, which really conjures that in my mind. But also the vocabulary we had around that, the discourse of magic. And I think that's missing here. We don't have the 2 magicians in battle. It's almost like in the first part, it was like a Pokemon battle of, see what your Pikachu can do against my Charizard sort of stuff. And we don't have that here. So I think that for me slightly lowers that intensity of magic.
Mm-hmm. Other thoughts at this time? Aliki, you're muted if you're saying something exciting.
I'm saying something very exciting. I'm curious about the actor John Holland. I wonder what it was that made him the only person that could play that role.
His letter-carrying skills were legendary.
I'm assuming that he was funny-looking in some sort of way, because it's meant to be a spirit. Maybe he was terribly tall or terribly short, or I don't know.
Well, as you know, if we're thinking of it as a working acting script, then it might just simply be we need an actor to do this bit at this point. He doesn't need a name, the character. Then that's just how it got marked up.
Yeah.
He's free at that time.
It's just that I've been peeking ahead, and I see that he comes up again.
I wonder if he played the friend at the end of Friar Bungay. You know, that vital part. Okay, any final thoughts? Okay, right. Well, we are about a third or so way through John of Bordeaux. It's not a desperately long text as it survives. We've got one more session to be cracking on with that, and I'm sure we're going to have many agreements and disagreements about how it functions, because frankly, nobody knows how it works. This is one of the first times anyone has actually really done this with this text. It's not like Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, which many people have been before. It's always interesting to see what different things occur. Helen is waving at me. Helen.
You should take on board the fact that this week, probably, except for an Italian edition, which I'm due to look at on Tuesday, this may very well be the best available text of John of Bordeaux in the entire world. It is possible. We're looking for another one.
Yes, I'd just like to take this moment to thank Dan for finding us source text, and Helen for preparing the text. Round of applause, please, for these fabulous people. And on that note, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.